I'm giving away this belt at 100,000 subscribers, so go ahead and click subscribe today. We got a big one for you right here on The Angle Show. I, of course, am Angle. I want to kick things off. Let's talk about Matt Riddle versus Jake Paul. I know this sounds so crazy and out of left field, but it is possible, at least according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. They have noted that there are talks that are expected to begin next week between Jake Paul and Matt Riddle. Now, if you guys didn't know, Jake Paul started something really special with the PFL, which is called the Super Fight Division, and essentially this could be one of those fights that happen there. Now, the thing that nobody realizes right now is we don't know if it's going to be boxing or MMA. So, of course, people on social media are already trying to pick winners when we don't even know what the hell is going to go down. Look, Matt Riddle used to be an MMA fighter. He used to be in the UFC before he became this incredible pro wrestler, and he is very skilled in pro wrestling. Unfortunately, his personal demons and things like that, those situations really just, they caused a lot of issues, especially for the WWE, hence why he got released by the company. But Matt Riddle, if he is fighting Jake Paul in MMA, he will beat Jake Paul in MMA. I am 100% sure of that. But if he is boxing against Jake Paul, I'm going to go with what I've been saying this entire time. If you're not a professional boxer, you are not beating Jake Paul. And whether or not you like Jake Paul and Logan Paul, the thing about Jake Paul is that he has been very, very determined to be a very skillful boxer. And I've watched tons of boxing in my life. I am not saying that Jake Paul is the best boxer in the world, but he has done a lot for the sport. They are doing great with pay-per-view buys. People are getting paid. He's brought in a whole bunch of people under MVP promotions, and they're getting paid. This could be Matt Riddle's biggest payday of his entire career just by fighting Jake Paul. Now, whether it happens MMA or boxing, that's the key point that a lot of people don't understand just yet. Because if it is MMA, Matt Riddle's winning. If it's boxing, I think Matt Riddle loses, and that is going to be very interesting to see why this could potentially be the next fight. I think there's a lot of other celebrities or a lot of other performers that could actually be a bigger draw than Matt Riddle, but maybe because of the WWE, maybe there's some synergies there where Jake Paul thinks it could be, a very big marketable event. I don't think that's going to be the case, but we'll see. But either way, early prediction: if it's boxing, Jake Paul by KO. If it's MMA, Matt Riddle by submission, easy. And that's my prediction, guys. WWE dropped Sloane Jacobs. And you might not even know who this is, especially if you don't watch NXT, especially if you're not paying attention to what WWE has been doing in the last 2 years. But Sloane Jacobs got released by WWE, and now she is being picked up by MLW. And I actually think this is a good thing. She's going to be competing in their women's featherweight division. If you're watching this video, you're not aware, just understand that she's appeared on ROH. She's appeared on AEW for a few matches. She's appeared in WWE, NXT. Not heavily utilized within WWE, not heavily utilized within AEW or ROH. But there is something that I've mentioned in the past about MLW. They have signed a couple people from WWE or AEW where they maybe weren't utilized at all. People maybe weren't familiar with their game, and then MLW actually utilizes them, and they become something somewhat special. And I think my best example of that was Ezra Judge. You might remember Ezra Judge from NXT, hardly ever used. He became EJ Nduka, goes to MLW, actually wins gold, actually becoming part of prominent storylines, and now he signed with AEW, right? So MLW is somewhat smart in the way that they recruit talent. Not saying that Sloane Jacobs is going to go in there and become like this massive piece to the puzzle, but I think MLW has shown people in the past, like, hey, if you're not going to utilize them, we will utilize them. We'll see what we can make from them. And the cool thing about that is, look at exactly what happened with EJ Nduka, right? Like, after his MLW run, WWE and AEW were interested, and that's exactly what it's about. You can go and work other companies, whether they're big or small. You can go work there, and then the cool thing is, if you just do something a little bit special, if you show the world that you've really developed and gotten better, you can go elsewhere, get paid even more, maybe even more reliability and whatever it may be. But I think this is actually a smart pickup for MLW, especially as they're working on their women's division. So it should be really interesting to see how that goes. Guys, Dragon Lee, what's going on with Dragon Lee? A lot of people don't really know what's going on with Dragon Lee because WWE, honestly, it doesn't sound like they knew what they were doing with Dragon Lee. The Wrestling Observer newsletter noted that Dragon Lee has been quietly called up to the WWE main roster. Now, we've seen him on Raw, and tonight he's expected on SmackDown, but there's like no announcement from WWE, but now apparently he is listed internally on the main roster. And I actually like Dragon Lee a lot, and I think Dragon Lee has been absolutely incredible for NXT. I like the fact that Dragon Lee didn't need a championship to be involved, right? Dragon Lee was always having these great matches. Win or lose, Dragon Lee was always coming out on top. The presentation's been good. His wrestling's been good. He's adapted to the WWE system so well. And we got to be, 100% real right now. WWE, historically, they bring in masked wrestlers and they drop the ball. They do. And it got me kind of scared when Dragon Lee signed with WWE because they made it such a big deal. But Dragon Lee is such a talented individual. He understands the personality aspect. He understands the wrestling aspect. I don't want WWE to drop the ball here. I don't. It was a massive deal for WWE to bring in Dragon Lee, and a lot of people were shitting on WWE for doing it. And I can understand why, because WWE doesn't have they don't have a good track record here. It's always been relatively bad when you sign luchadors, and then you just throw them on 205 Live, you throw them in comedy skits or comedy groups and stuff like that. So far, Dragon Lee, since being on WWE television, they have not made him look like a joke. But of course, there is a part of me that kind of gets worried, will they treat him as a joke? I think Dragon Lee is going to be a massive, massive, massive W for WWE as long as they don't treat him like a joke. You got to put him in good storylines. You got to have him competing and winning. But also at the same time, you don't have your next top masked wrestler. Like Rey Mysterio's there, but who replaces Rey Mysterio that's in a mask? Right? Santos Escobar, when he came to WWE, they took off his mask. Dragon Lee is so talented and he gets to keep his mask and he pretty much gets to keep everything about him. I don't want to see that change, so hopefully WWE kills it with him. Best of luck to him. Guys, Wrestling Observer newsletter reporting that WWE and CM Punk are indeed in talks. This report was later backed up by Boozer Wrestling. A lot of people are obviously talking about this. But basically, Dave Meltzer reported that WWE and CM Punk are in talks for him to make a return, although a deal hasn't been reached. He says there have been rumors that it's happening, but those in WWE have only said that no deal is completed, and that those close to Punk have told us that it is his intention to return, and the two sides are in talks. One would expect if such a deal is made that Survivor Series weekend in Chicago would be the time to do the surprise return. Guys, if WWE is doing War Games, I don't know if they want to keep CM Punk a babyface or a heel or how they want to go about that. Personally speaking, I think there's a lot of synergies between him and Seth Rollins. Obviously, WWE has been teasing stuff with Seth Rollins as of late. But if there is a possibility where they could just do a surprise, it'd be kind of cool to see him in a War Games match, joining the babyfaces with Cody and Sammy and Owens or whatever. But we'll see how that all goes down. I think this is a massive deal for WWE. Obviously he had his time in AEW. We've been talking about the rumors that he's been, headed to WWE. It sounds like this is a very, very close thing to happening, and it should be a good thing for pro wrestling, right? AEW gets Edge, WWE gets Jade Cargill, CM Punk goes to WWE. I mean, somebody else from WWE will go to AEW. It's a great thing for the business. And I know people will sit there and talk about the drama, but this is exactly what should be done. CM Punk could go to WWE, clear up his legacy. He's a hell of a talent. And, you don't want that stain, that blemish from AEW on there. So you go to WWE, you do your thing, let him go out the way he should go out. And on top of that, if possible, bring in AJ Lee. I don't know if it'll happen, but please, dude. The women's division with AJ Lee would be so much better, too. So, nonetheless, we'll keep it rolling. 100K subscribers. I'm giving this away, so make sure you click subscribe today.